Welcome to Balance of Forces, an independent platform where we provide analysis on current affairs and business. In this episode, we look at the Political Party Funding Act and the report that was published on the 18th of November, this past Thursday. I'm Badan Kotogwane. I'm joined by Jamie Mighty, political analyst. Jamie, the declarations report came out this week. But before we go into the report, let's look at the Political Party Funding Act. Is it a good thing?
I think it absolutely is a good thing, and one that, after much delay, has finally become part of the South African democracy. It's important for civilians to be able to know who is funding what political party, for how much, and what their objectives and motives are in providing that particular funding. Because there are times when the interests of special interests and the interests of civilians diverge. And so you need to know, is my political party acting in the interest of its donors, or is it acting in the interest of us, the party members and the voters? So this Political Party Funding Act, which came into effect in April, is an amazing piece of legislation that allows for the public to really start getting a look into how are the political parties funded in South Africa.
When you look at Section 9, subsection 3 of the Act, there's a threshold amount of 100,000 for that parties are required to declare. That threshold amount, you think is it too high?
Well, when you think about the 100,000 amount, it does come across as being too high, because you have this whole bracket where, people can provide contributions, maybe multiple small contributions, maybe as a family or whatever the case may be, and not register on the declarations list. In a country where you have so much poverty, where you have such inequality, I think it would be beneficial to lower the threshold so that people can see more. Because I think part of the concern now is that we're not seeing enough, because the threshold of disclosure, initial disclosure, is high at 100,000. I think even 50,000 is a lot of money to contribute. 75,000, people ought to be able to know, hey, you gave 75,000 to those guys. What did you want in return for that support?
What would be a good amount?
I don't know, but it seems like 100,000 may be a bit on the high end.
Okay, let's go into this report published on Thursday, the 18th of November. This is quarter 2, right? Published by the IEC. Give us a high-level understanding of the report. What do you make of the results of the second quarter?
Well, what we see from the second quarter results is that mining has a large influence in political party funding. We see that there's media money that is also having influence in political party funding, and then also you have gambling money. So the mining money comes from old mining money. The Oppenheimer family has been funding in a prolific way in both quarters. In the first quarter, we saw Mary Slack give the Democratic Alliance 15 million rands in the first quarter. In the second quarter, we've seen the daughters of Mary Slack, Jessica Slack-Gel, Victoria Fredenham, as well as Rebecca Oppenheimer, also give 10 million to Action SA. That's a big contribution coming from one family. 10 million in one quarter, 15 million in another quarter. That's a lot of money. And then you see the operational mining right now making a lot of contributions to the ANC. In the first quarter, you had United Manganese of Kalahari making a contribution of 5 million. Then you had their majority shareholder, Majestic Silver Trading, making a contribution of 2.5 million, bringing it to 7.5 million. Then you go to the second quarter for the ANC. What do you then have? You then have African Rainbow Minerals making a contribution of 5.8 million. So there's a lot of mining money funding political parties. And obviously that begs the question, are they doing it for favorable regulations? Are they doing it for favorable treatment? What is the basis upon which mining companies as well as old mining money is giving out this stuff to political parties? But also, you see a lot of money coming out of online gaming. Martin Moshal, who is a shareholder in Betway, he's a man who made his wealth. Currently, I think he lives in the United Kingdom. He's a man who made his wealth from online gambling and online gaming, and obviously it has now come mainstream. He's making big contributions. He gave 5 million to the Action SA political party in this quarter. The previous quarter, he gave them 15 million, and now he has given the Democratic Alliance in this quarter 15 million as well. So Martin Mashol has actually given out a lot of money to the South African political parties in the opposition. So that's what you're seeing from this picture: mining money, gambling money, media money, and the media money obviously coming from Naspers, which made a contribution to the Democratic Alliance.
Let's look at media money, because when the report came out, it caused quite a stir on Twitter. Should Naspers be having interest within the media space? Should they be funding political parties?
No, I'm not of the view that Naspers should be funding political parties simply because of the assets that it owns. Naspers owns assets within the online media and the print media space, which are hard news. It owns Bleed. It owns News 24. It has shares in MultiChoice, which also has, news channels. So we can't have a situation where on the one side, you are supporting a political entity, and on the other side, it's your role to hold political entities under extreme scrutiny. You're not going to be able to hold all political parties under extreme scrutiny if one of them is your favorite and one of them is your preferred choice. What that does is it creates a conflict of interest. And I think as a result of that conflict of interest, some of those political entities are not going to receive the same level of scrutiny than others. If this had been Independent Online, if Independent Online had been the ones that had given 1 million rands to the economic freedom fighters, they would have been a furor of analysis, opinions. People would have been saying it's, ANN7 again, it's capture, it's all of these things. They cannot be a situation where you have media company funding a political party, because funding a political party is a form of support and endorsement. You're actually saying this is the party of preference and choice for Naspers. That's a bit of a problem. And another part of the problem is that Naspers in the South African landscape has a history that they need to be very careful of. Naspers was funded after a meeting in 1914, which sought to create a positive media presence for Afrikaner movements. It was formed in 1915 and became a vehicle which was a nationalist, Afrikaner nationalist media vehicle. And in fact, during apartheid, Naspers was funding the Nationalist Party, and the Nationalist Party did have shares in Naspers. They had to apologize for this stuff, even though they gave vague and incomplete apologies. But they must be very careful, because that legacy and their participation in apartheid is already a problem. So now, when you are now also funding a political party in, a new dispensation, it can become an issue. So I think for those two reasons, Naspers needs to stay away from funding political parties.
But Jamie, make me understand this. Naspers knew that, knew that this was going to happen. They know about the political party funding act. Why would they still give money? And they knew it would go public. And is it a strategy, or they simply just don't care?
Look, I think that there's sometimes a certain approach to dealing with issues which ignores that the public is going to hold you to account. So I think Naspers knew that we are going to know that they gave this money to the Democratic Alliance, and maybe they thought that they won't be scrutinized because they're Naspers. But we must hold everyone to the same standards of scrutiny. So if we would ask ANN7 hard questions if they contributed to a political party, we must ask Naspers. We can't say just because you're News 24 or whatever, we're not going to ask you the same tough questions. No, we must ask. And it's fair for us to ask those questions, because we must try to understand what role do you have as a media owning company in funding this particular political party.
Jamie, looking at the report, there seems to be a small group of donors, right? Like you said, media, gambling, and mining. What harm exists in having such a small group of donors giving giving political parties?
Yeah, so I think the harm that exists in our democracy from looking at this particular set of circumstances is that the donors that are giving to the political parties are also giving in other places. You know, they may be contributing to media houses. They may be contributing to investigative journalistic, projects. And now, if on one side I'm contributing to a political party, and on the other side I'm contributing to media houses, and on the other side I'm contributing to investigative journalism, it creates now these tensions, because how are the other entities that are receiving your money going to cover your preferred political parties properly if it's going to lead to them losing that particular money?
So it becomes an ethics debate now.
There is a serious ethical hazard that exists here, because now, in an attempt to protect my funding, I may leave certain stories. I may ignore certain issues because everyone is being funded by the same people. And what this does is it creates an extreme amount of influence in the hands of a few people. People who do not have to explain to the public what their motives and incentives are. What you need in a democracy is maximum transparency and accountability, right? If now you have people who can move things behind the scenes because they have lots of money and don't have to account to the public may not actually be able to understand why they're not getting certain things, right? Is this money being given, because the Reserve Bank must remain a certain way? Is it being given because land policies must be opposed?
Jamie, another sort of insights that can be derived from this report is that I don't see a lot of other political parties here. It's mostly, declaration by Action SA, the ANC, and the DA. Where are the other political parties? And notably, where's the EFF in the picture?
So it's very clear that some political parties say that they have got nothing to declare when they were asked for their declarations. So the EFF is one of the parties that is missing in action from the declaration, so to speak. So is the Freedom Front Plus. And there doesn't seem to be any indication of foul play. What we have right now are explanations that these parties are getting lots of small donations. Maybe they're not even getting lots of them. But there's no evidence to indicate any foul play at this particular moment. I've seen online that some people are trying to cast aspersions or whatever, but there's no evidence, and we have to work on an evidence-based system. As things stand right now, what we've been told is that, for instance, with the EFF, that they get, member subscriptions.
And party levies.
Party levies, actually, from all of the people who occupy office. So those people pay levies, and then they also get small donations from their supporters. And that is how they are funding their political activities. There's nothing right now that can allow us to gainsay that version or the version of the Freedom Front Plus. So we have to take them at their word. And it's very possible for a large party to operate on the basis of small contributions. Bernie Sanders in America ran a very successful campaign on the back of small contributions. The same is true of Barack Obama. He ran a successful campaign on the back of small contributions. So as things stand right now, it could be the case that a lot of the other parties that didn't declare are operating on the contributions of their legislative members as well as small donations. And all of this stuff is audited anyway. People cannot operate within the political party framework without submitting all of their financials, and having those financials vetted in the normal way. Really, the way I see it is that it would be, if the EFF messed this up, they probably would all be in jail by tomorrow. So, because they are wanted. They are wanted. So, I think I'll take them at their word on this particular one.
Parting shot, Jamie, what should citizens understand from this report?
Well, what citizens need to understand from this report is that there are a few donors who are contributing the bulk of the money that is allowing political parties to operate. And in and of itself, that poses a democratic threat.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Talk to us on the comment section. My name is Badan Khotsokwane, Jamie Mighty.